But for somebody who is on the end of the spectrum, type 2 diabetic, extra body fat, a metabolic mess right now, and we want to get them back to being insulin sensitive, healthy body weight, regain their metabolic health. Let's give that example, the detail, in a simple sense, the protocol you'd put them on to get them there quickest.
So a huge part of this is compliance. Any healthcare provider you will talk to will say, like, that's the number one issue. If it comes to taking a drug, like all you gotta do is take a pill, compliance tends to be bad. So number one thing is gonna be compliance. And this person, if they like eating one meal a day, like, and they're like, hey, I can get behind that by all means. Like, I would definitely be like that 100%. Um, so that's where fasting could really be beneficial. I'm like, if they like it, they feel good, they can do it 100%. Dude, don't worry about like the minutia of trying to do bodybuilding type diet and let's do 3 meals and get all the protein right. No, for this kind of person you described, that's where fasting could be beneficial. But what I would prescribe would be more of like an understanding of what their goals are. That's always where you got to start. Like, what are your goals? How long are you okay with it taking? And what are you willing to do? And once you kind of understand these things, then you can make a plan. Like, okay, if you're willing to do anything, okay, let me get that plan out the window for you. But if you're like, hey, I can only take baby steps, which is a lot of times the truth, because I mean, if they got into a pretty bad health situation, a lot of times like just throwing everything at them all at once is a recipe for failure. So a baby step, like I just said, might be one of the things. Like, hey, let's just have beef with 3 meals a day, half a pound of beef, minimum 3 meals a day, and then in 3 months we will do the next step. The first step, I would probably say, let's take out the seed oils too, and do so remove one thing, add one thing, and then maybe stepwise improve the plan. As success comes, because that's one of the things. Like, success builds momentum. And a personal example that I just experienced, and I've done this so many times now, is when I'm ever doing fat loss. Like, I was up at 19% body fat. And when starting that diet, I'm always like, I just want to just keep building. It's easy. I like eating a lot. It's great. And so starting the diet is like the hardest part. But like once I get going and you start seeing results, it's like, oh man, I can do 20 minutes of cardio too. So then you do 20 minutes of cardio and then you start seeing more results. And you're like, hey, I'm like, so kind of like the dopamine of results kind of spirals on itself, versus if you're like, all right, Kevin, you got to drop your calories to 2,000. You got to do an hour of cardio every day. You got to do weights every day. I'd be like, oh my God, that's way too much. I was just used to eating 4,000 calories a day and doing no cardio. So yeah, I like to take a progressive approach with myself. And then, I think that's probably what works best with most people as well.
And for somebody that wants to take a slower approach to what we just talked about there, regaining metabolic health, or they're in a maintenance phase and they don't want to take it as extreme as you've done, you mentioned before how you can handle a skinned potato. And what I'm getting at here, somebody that's going to include some plants in the realm with, say, a more animal-based diet, what are the safer options to include for a mixed diet?
Yep. I kind of think of it on as like a plant pyramid, like a rung approach. On the bottom rung would be um, the roots and tubers. Underground storage organs is what they were traditionally called. I think those are the most ancestrally consistent for the reasons we've discussed, like in this podcast. We would have had a monopoly on those, and as we decimated the large animals, we'd have really probably went towards those. I think seasonal, local fruit, organic, ideally, would be on that bottom rung as well. And then, depending on one's metabolic state, would be potentially some honey. So those are things that most people can eat without like worrying about the plant toxins, and like they're more or less congruent with human biology. Uh, then you got things like on the next rung, which would be more of the traditional green vegetables, which like I never eat. I used to eat them. I would call them like the fillers, like the leaves and the broccoli. And the reason I would eat them is particularly because they don't have much nutrition. And what I mean by that is I can eat a pound of broccoli and it's not going to give you very many calories. And so when it comes to like body composition stuff, you'd be eating like lean chicken breast. You don't want to be starving, so you eat a pound of broccoli. And the pound of broccoli is going to help you on your body composition goals because it's going to fill your stomach up, but it's not giving you lots of energy. So in the context of like human evolution, like we kind of ancestrally been talking about, we would never try and load up on foods that provided little amounts of energy that just load your gut up. But in today's modern world, with someone that's like you just mentioned, the metabolically sick person, that can be beneficial if it keeps them from overeating and helps them with lose fat. So like these had become health foods when really it's like they provide little energy, often low nutrition, usually not super bioavailable nutrition. That's what's in it. So, anyways, that would kind of be on the tier above, where it's like you can eat some of these. It's not really going to do much good for you. Maybe if you're eating a lot of them, it can do bad things like bioaccumulating oxalates and things like that. So that kind of be on the next tier. The third tier would be more of the seeds. And seeds confuse people because people don't know what seeds are. And usually they say seeds, they think like chia seeds, but seeds are the grains. So grains are seeds of grasses, nuts, seeds of trees. So the seeds or grains, I recommend people really limit those. Like those are the ones that are most offended by the plant. And it makes sense. These are the plant's offspring that since a plant can't run away, like if it has to defend itself from just being eaten. So in the evolutionary arms race, it has various kinds of plant compounds to protect animals from eating them or humans from eating them. And the grains tend to be, or the grasses and seeds tend to be the seeds tend to be the ones that are most highly defended. So that's the thing. That's wheat, rice. These are, by the way, the most common foods of the diet worldwide. Wheat, rice, corn, three grains that make up over 50% of the calories. You'll get soybeans, which that's also a seed. And then if you throw sugar in there, which is not a seed, but that's like the standard American diet. That's like 70% of what the world eats, but has no congruence with evolutionary history or our biology. Those are the things I'd be like, we want to limit those. So seed oil is also a seed. So the seeds are kind of the third tier. And then I'd say the fourth tier are like things that are just more like more artificial, like things like are made in a lab. And that would be things like, artificial sweeteners, things like that, that are just like, it's not food really. I would put seed oils up in that category. Like those are seeds that are then super processed and industrialized to make them even semi-edible. So yeah, that's kind of how I think about like a plant pyramid from a tiered structure.
If you enjoyed that clip, you're going to want to head over here and catch a full episode. I'll see you over there.
If we take those 300,000 years, we put them on a 24-hour clock. The first 23 hours, we don't see cavities in the fossil record. We don't see periodontal disease in the fossil record. We don't see malocclusion in the fossil record. We don't really see abscesses in the fossil record. But something happens 1 hour.